So now, after that first impressive and I think very foolhardy turn by the English player, we come to the Holy Roman Emperor, and he threw a Mongols card. That was a required play. It doesn't do anything yet, but once three of them are out, we get a reshuffle. He's got a couple of popes. Popes are cool. He's also got the Norway card. Well, he doesn't want to play that. He's not allowed to discard it. It's the one kind of card you can't discard. So, he's kind of in this position where, alright, if I had seen that, I might have done the naval battle against England. But I wasn't looking at everything. Okay. So, given that he made that error, he kind of wants to take England on. But here's the deal. He's got no opposition to France and Spain clearing their excommunication. So he's going to declare himself a crusade. And at this point, each player who has at least one Catholic power, whether or not they join the crusade, must pay 1 florin to the Pope in a 4 or 5 player game. If they can't play, he can't go and can be excommunicated. Okay. So this is a quick way to gather some cash, and probably the English should have done this rather than 2 excommunications. Because quite simply, France and Spain are going to be able to clear their excommunication from this. Well, who doesn't have Catholic players? Everybody does. The English are in trouble here. So what we're going to do, they can't pay. I'm going to excommunicate the Danes. I don't know what excommunication really does. Nah, I'm going to excommunicate the English. That seems more valuable to me. Because I can overrun Denmark, I think, and I don't want an excommunicated Denmark on my side. Everyone else gets to pay $1. That's the French. The Spanish are out of money. Ooh. Well, I see no reason not to. They've got a Catholic power. I'll get rid of the French excommunication if I remember there. And, of course, Venice is paying. Well, this isn't as much money as I was hoping for. I thought I was going to get about $4. I got 2. Didn't really think too carefully. But that's okay. I've gotten to levy an extra excommunication. And now we add up what this crusade is going to be. And I'm going to send the Empire. That's 3. I don't think anybody wants to throw knights into this. That is kind of a waste. So 4, 5, 6. France is in. And it's got to be Venice. So we're at 6. That's not a great result. If France has a knights, they might play it. They do. Yeah. Because the infidel gets what? 2 dice for their defense strength. Yeah. We'd like that extra money. It'll help a lot of people, including ourselves. We're going to play this because we can't use it against the English. So that raises the target to an 8. And Venice probably doesn't want to use a Knights of Christ. So we've got a total of 8 here. Which is a little better. It ends up a draw, which means nobody gets any extra cash from that. Now we're over here on the Empire. And, well, he could play more cards, I guess. He's launched his attack from here on the Empire, though. That's kind of a shame. He wanted that money to launch an attack. That was a screw-up again on my part by invoking the Empire for the Crusade. Well, I can still do an attack out here from the Mamluks, and that's not too bad. And I'll launch a quick one into the Kingdom of Jerusalem. I've got a net of +1. I'll use the red die for myself, and I'm just going to roll. I've got the advantage. I get in, and that's purple. I've expanded up a space. That's all I can do, because I've used my 2 powers. I don't have anything else I can play. And now we go on. Now what's kind of cool for France, having played, was now they have less cards. They can draw one. So they get to fill out their hand. And they have some interesting choices here. First of all, they have to play a Mongol card. That's the second. We're almost at the point where Mongols are going to be a problem. And, well, I got the Seljuks and this. I can reduce my number of attacks. I'm going to add a territory because I don't want to lose my Seljuks. And I end up getting 1C, which is going to be up here. Now, that's just added territory to the Holy Roman Empire. And to Denmark. And that's it for me. I got some other cards that I'd like to play. If I collect income, I don't get to do anything. And I think there's things I want to do here. So I'm going to grab Livonia, which will give me some cash. And that's a normal ruler. So I'll share a marker for that. That gives me 2 florins. And I add Byzantium, which is also a normal ruler. And that gives me 3 more florins. Hey, we're rolling in the money. Now I have this assassin card. I can use it to negate spies. That's kind of useful. I can try to force a ruler change. Can I get... I think that requires a civil war or disaster. I don't think an excommunication is sufficient. I might be mistaken. For any power with a ruler, even his own. Oh, no. Civil war is the other thing. So I could try to kill a ruler. Is there a ruler that I don't like? I don't like the Empire being powerful on my border. I'll say that much. That might be an interesting choice. But that might piss him off. Oh, what about over here? I've got the Seljuks. Ooh, I've got to put some markers down. Blue, oops. Blue is, let's see, what did we add here? We added Byzantium, which is down here. They don't own Thrace right now. And Livonia up here. Now, Livonia, I believe, is pagan. I think that's what it stands for. Okay. Is there anyone I want to kill? And remember, this is hidden, but... Russia could be a threat, but they might be... See, here's the problem. You piss somebody off and they might be more of a threat than if you leave them alone. And that's kind of my worry, is that I don't really want to hit someone if they're not going to be a threat. Okay, so I'm not going to play that. I'm going to keep it. It's a good defensive card in some ways against a spy. And I'm going to launch an attack, I believe. I'm going to launch an attack on the English up in France. I have to pay 1 to just do it. My French are at +3 to the die roll. The English are at even. That's pretty good. I'll just go with that. Tie, that doesn't help. So now I've got, I believe, another attack possible. Nope, I drew a card, so I'm only allowed 1 attack. So I'm done, and the turn passes over here. Spain doesn't have enough cash. This is their problem. They're also excommunicated, which is another big problem. It means they can't, and Spain and Hungary, they can't collect income as an excommunicated country. That foils my desire, which was to get some income. I don't know, can I call a crusade as an excommunicated country? Yes. Of course I can. I don't even need a Catholic to call a crusade. So this is how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to draw a card. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I would have liked to get income, but I'm going to say I'm going to use my Pope to call some sort of crusade or another. And Catholic powers, well, there are 3 players with cash. England doesn't have cash. We're going to excommunicate. Hey, I'd love to excommunicate the Almoravids, but that can't happen. So we'll just excommunicate Denmark to reduce England's ability to do stuff because they're not able to pay. Everyone else has to toss us a buck. And now at least we have a little bit of money. We can undertake something. Okay. Well, after that, let's see what our crusade is. I'm going to send the Hungarians on the crusade. So they're at even. They add nothing to this. Who else went? Venice went. They're adding nothing to it. Although they may want to add +2 for Knights of Christ. Here, no harm in sending my best, which is the Franks, or French. Just to use their anachronistic name. They'll give a +3 to the bonus. And we'll send our big old empire, which adds another 3. So we're at 6 right now. And this will throw in their knights. It's a useful... See, here's the problem. The knights are kind of useful in terms of adding something. And that's why they don't really want to do this. They could make an attack with the knights in order to try to take things. They have decent money and a decent ability to take money. I don't know. We'll leave it at that 6, which isn't bad. Let's see if people get money. Nah, the crusade fails. Okay. So now we're on the Spanish and Hungarians. They've sent the Hungarians. They can't use them again, but I can use some of these cards. Roll 1 die versus a Catholic province. Roll higher than the income. Heresy. Well, what happens with heresy? No income. Same as excommunication there? I don't know. It's hard to remember what happens here. A player, no reason. What happens if you're excommunicated? I thought it was no income. He can't trace movement through other Catholic powers. No. And a civil war. He can still tax. So I could have taxed with these. God damn it. Alright. But I sent Hungary. That got rid of my excommunication. And I don't know. Looks to me heresy only works against Catholics for some reason. Well, my chance of doing it to England is low. Well, I definitely want to do it, and I'll hit Denmark with this. Denmark's only got a, well, we'll hit their 2-point province. We failed, so that's gone. We'll do a civil war, and I can play that against a power with excommunication or disaster. Now I can do that against England. That's about the best I can do there. Alright, and now I got the Bulgars, which I can't play because they're off the map. That's Bulgaria. It's a different territory. So I gotta hold that. I get to make an attack. I'll attack the Almoravids here. That cost me $1. I'll use red for the attack. Excommunicated can't attack. They can't do something. No, they can attack. Okay. So I've got +3, and the Almoravids are at 0. I'm going to go with that. I get a 4, that's a victory. So we've succeeded in the Reconquista. And now I got one more card I could throw. No, I can't. So I am essentially done because I don't have another attack. Should have taken income. Not really keen in understanding the game enough to remember all these things. There's not a good indicator of all the different rules that are in effect. All right, up now to the wealthy Russian and Venetians. So nothing really defines mandatory and non-mandatory cards that I've seen. Maybe the rules somewhere stated, but what seems to be the case is over here, this little bells here is mandatory cards. These little roosters mean powers, but they also are on some of the map, maybe all of the map cards. Where's the new one? No, they're on the starting map cards. Maybe these little roosters say those are powers you can start with. Let's see. Yeah, because the Bulgars who don't start on the board don't have one of those. So those indicate these are the cards available at the beginning of play. The little bells seem to indicate mandatory events, which means over here for Russia, the first thing I have to do is, it appears, I have to drop this disaster. And the disaster is going to be rolled with an 11 to 66 die roll to see where we hit. And it's 14, the Latin Kingdoms. Well, nobody has that. Now, if I recall correctly, you just keep rolling until you get somebody who's in the game. It's got to be a power somebody has. Yep. So we get to keep rolling the dice. 52, that's Spain. We have a Spain in the game. So we're going to have a disaster here. And that gives him another little problem. And we roll a die for Lost Florins. 3. What happens if you don't have enough? I think you just run out. Yep. So there goes the Spanish cash. And this disaster goes away. And we're still looking at Russia, Venice to try to decide what else to do. Well, for their card play, it was all sort of one. They played one map card and ended up getting this, which was good because they had this power, Polovtsy in hand, which they added to their territory. It came with no florins, but it has an income of 1, and I think this is how you're supposed to play it. The cards have a starting income on them. That's how much cash the kingdom has, and it doesn't necessarily relate to what the provincial capital income is. Then they used a Pope card to launch a crusade. That allowed them another excommunication against Hungary this time. I think that had just been removed. And the English side, everything Catholic's already excommunicated on theirs. The Empire and France joined in. They gave us 6. I threw the Knights of Christ in for a +2, getting the extra cash. Because otherwise, well, yes, I could launch an attack, but that would be my one attack because of the situation. So now I have Russia. Russia's a powerful force with a +2 to its combat rating, and I could go try to grab some territory. I think that's an interesting idea. With +2, Lithuania looks valuable. I'm going to also throw 3 more bucks in to raise that to a +3. And I get it. And that's my only attack possible. Now, I don't get a card for Lithuania, but if I end up drawing it, I can play it. If somebody else draws it, they may be interested in attacking me because of it. One thing you can see is some of these counters are a little hard to differentiate from each other. They tried to combine color and pattern to make them easier to distinguish, making so, say, a colorblind person might have an easier time with it. But I'm finding it very difficult to distinguish the patterns on some of these from any distance. Now, when you zoom in, you can kind of see them, but in the lighting in my room, it's difficult. Okay, so now we're going on to the second turn, and again, I'm going to speed up tremendously at this point, but I've done this first round in some detail to kind of show you the pattern of the game.